All right, think of this as the user's manual you never got. For the most complex, most incredible machine in the known universe. The one sitting right between your ears. Because here's the thing, if you can get a handle on how your brain actually works, you can start making it work better for you. So, let's dive in.
I mean, come on. Why is it so hard to focus sometimes? We've all been there, right? You walk into a room with total purpose, and then poof, gone. You have no idea why you're there. Or you meet someone new, shake their hand, and their name just evaporates the second you hear it. And don't get me started on sitting down to work, only to look up an hour later, lost in a sea of notifications and daydreams. It's so frustrating, and honestly, it can feel like you're failing.
But here's the secret. The problem probably isn't your willpower. Not really. It's more about your brain's, let's call it default programming. And that programming was built for a completely different world than the one we live in now. But here's the really good news. That programming isn't fixed. It's not set in stone. You can actually rewrite it. You can upgrade the software. And that's exactly what we're going to get into.
All right, first up, let's talk about upgrading your memory machine. I think we can all agree it sometimes feels like a leaky bucket, right? So let's figure out how to start plugging some of those holes.
Okay, so the first thing you've got to know is that your memory isn't just one thing. It's not like a hard drive where you just save a file. It's way more like a three-stage assembly line. And if any one of those stages gets messed up, the whole process can just fall apart.
So let's take a look at this assembly line. Step 1 is encoding. This is basically the input stage. Your brain takes in new information and starts making some initial, kind of fragile connections. Then comes step 2, consolidation. This is where those weak connections get stabilized and basically hardened into long-term storage. And a huge part of this, it happens when you're sleeping. And finally, you've got retrieval. That's the moment you need the memory, and your brain has to go find it and pull it back out by firing up that same network of neurons.
Okay, so that brings us to the million-dollar question, right? If our brains have this whole system set up, why on earth do we forget things all the time? Where's the breakdown happening?
Well, you might be surprised. It turns out the biggest culprit isn't usually a problem with storage. Your brain's hard drive is massive, and it's not usually a retrieval problem either. Nope. Most of the time, the failure happens right at the very beginning at step 1, encoding. When you're distracted, when you're multitasking, that information never really gets written down properly in the first place.
So how do we fix this? Now, you can see a bunch of great tips here, and things like getting enough sleep are absolutely non-negotiable. But I really want to zoom in on one that is a total game changer: active recall. Seriously, instead of just passively rereading your notes or a book, you actively test yourself. You force your brain to pull that information out from scratch. So for instance, after you read a chapter, you close the book and you actually try to summarize the main ideas out loud. Every time you do that, it's like doing a rep at the gym for that specific memory. It strengthens the connection way more than just passively looking at it again.
Okay, that brings us to our next section, sharpening your attention spotlight. Because, let's be real, a great memory really starts with great focus. I want you to think of your attention like a spotlight. And the thing is, you can only shine it brightly on one thing at a time. But, and this is a big but, here's the problem. Every single moment of every day, your brain is in this invisible tug-of-war for control of that spotlight. There's a hidden battle going on. And if you can understand this battle, you can start to win the war against distraction.
So, this battle is basically between two different systems. On one side, you've got your top-down focus. Think of this as your brain's CEO, run by your prefrontal cortex. It's the part of you that intentionally guides your spotlight where you want it to go. But on the other side, you've got the bottom-up system. This thing is more like an ancient automatic survival alarm. Its job is to yank your attention toward anything new or unexpected. A loud bang, a flash of light, or you guessed it, a little notification on your phone.
Now, back in the day, that bottom-up alarm system was a lifesaver, right? It's what kept us from being eaten by tigers. But today, well, today, that system is getting hijacked. Our modern digital world is basically a minefield of triggers. Pings, dings, banners, infinite scrolls. All of it is perfectly engineered to set off that alarm system and pull your focus away from what you actually want to be doing. So what do? How do we fight back and take control of our spotlight? Well, all these things on the list are crucial, especially designing your environment. But there's one practice that's like a superpower for your focus: mindfulness meditation. Tons of research shows that this practice actually physically strengthens your prefrontal cortex. That's your brain's CEO, remember? The part in charge of top-down focus? It's basically a workout where you train yourself to notice when your mind has wandered off, and then you gently guide it back. And that's why I love this quote. Mindfulness is like weightlifting for your attention span. It just makes it so clear, doesn't it? Every single time you sit down and your mind wanders and you bring your focus back to your breath, that's a rep. That's a bicep curl for your prefrontal cortex. You are literally building the mental muscle you need to resist distractions and stay focused.
All right, so we've talked about upgrading our memory and sharpening our focus. Now for our final section, let's put it all together and talk about powering up what might be the most amazing human ability of all, our capacity to learn. The whole idea of learning, of getting better at anything, rests on this one, frankly incredible biological fact called neuroplasticity. And what it means is that your brain isn't a fixed, static thing. It is constantly, physically remodeling itself based on what you do, what you think, and what you experience. It's the reason you can learn anything at any age.
And it all comes down to this simple, beautiful rule. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you practice a skill, say a chord on a guitar, you make a specific set of brain cells fire in a specific pattern. The more you repeat that action, the stronger the physical connections, the wiring between those cells becomes. So practice isn't just some abstract idea. It's literally a construction project happening inside your head.
Which, of course, leads to the really practical question. If we're building circuits in our brain every time we practice, what's the most effective way to do it? How can we be smart architects of our own brains and make sure we're building strong, efficient pathways?
Well, one of the most powerful principles for this is something called chunking. Think about it. Trying to learn a complex skill, like a whole piece of music, is totally overwhelming for your brain. It's just too much at once. The solution? Break it down into tiny pieces, or chunks. You master one little phrase, then you master the next one. By learning these small chunks one by one, your brain builds the wiring for each part separately, and then it can start linking them all together into one smooth, effortless whole.
And really, this brings everything we've talked about, memory, attention, learning, all together. If there is one crucial takeaway from all of this, it's this. You are not stuck with the brain you have right now. It is fundamentally a work in progress. It's designed to adapt, to change, and to grow based on what you do.
The science on this is clear. The potential is absolutely there. You've now got a peek inside the user's manual. So the only real question left is, what are you going to upgrade first?